Now continuing our look ahead to the Grand Slam, the draw is out, was released earlier today on Monday when we're recording this, and of the big three, who has been dealt with the toughest group and which group would you label as the group of death?
Yeah, so for those who haven't seen the draws, I assume anyone listening has seen the draws by the time you're listening, but for anyone who hasn't, Gerwyn Price was drawn with Dave Chisnell, Raymond van Barneveld, and Ted Evans. Peter Wright was drawn with Nathan Aspinall, Alan Suter, and the Queen of the Palace, Fallon Sherrick, while Michael Van Gerwen was drawn with Ross Smith, our guest, Luke Woodhouse, and Nathan Rafferty. Of those, it's tough because, boy, both Group A and Group B are difficult. And just spoiler alert for the other half of the question, I will end up saying Group H is the group of death, but it's not by much over either Group A or Group B. If you look at Group A, obviously Gezi is now starting to come back into some form. It's been an inconsistent year for him, but he is playing better now than he was earlier in the year when he was battling injuries. Dave Chisnell is playing brilliantly right now. He's playing about as well as we've seen him play in a few years. He's won a Euro Tour. He's won a Players' Championship event. He was live in the European Championships to maybe get that first major. He's been live pretty much every tournament, and there's no reason to think he won't be entering this event equally live. Raymond van Barneveld, we haven't talked about him that much this year, but he's quietly done pretty well, and he had another fairly good weekend, followed by winning through the qualifiers. Over the course of the year, he is 33rd in averages in the Players' Championship events. Let's take off Darrell Pilgrim because he's only played the one match. So of the players who's played a decent number, he's 32nd. So I know averages and everything, but he has played statistically top 32 level stuff this year in the Players' Championship events. We haven't seen him that much on the European Tour. We haven't seen him in the Sky Majors. This will be the first one since the World Championships. But he is playing fairly well this year, and obviously playing well at the right time since he won through the qualifiers. And Ted Evans hasn't been the best year for him, but obviously a very good player on his day. And he had some deep runs at the back end of the year. Not enough to save his season, but enough to give him something to build for. That's a difficult group. But is Group E any easier? Peter Wright also now playing a lot better. I mean, he was struggling for a while after he became world number one, but he is certainly playing better now. Nathan Aspinall, we've talked about a lot over the past few months, and for good reason. He made a major final. He's won Players' Championship events. He's looking every bit the deal that he was when he was UK Open champion and Premier League runner-up. In fact, he probably looks better now than he was then. And then Alan Suter. It's easy to discount the year Alan Suter's had, because excluding the players who's only played a handful of events, he's 60th in average this year, and the two players right in front of him in the Players' Championship events were nowhere close to qualifying for the World Championships. The player right behind him, Kevin Dotes, is somewhat close, but also did qualify. So Alan Suter's, been playing at the same level as players who aren't going to be in the World Championship. But as I said, average isn't everything. And if you look at the results, especially in the back end of the year, he's playing really well now. At the beginning of the year, in the first 19 Players' Championship events, he went out first or second round in 17 of them. One of the two times he didn't, he made it all the way to the semifinals, but he did not play well in making the semifinals. He averaged below his seasonal average in all 6 matches en route to the semifinal. So if you just are looking at what he was doing early in the year, he was struggling. He was playing poorly. And now over the last few months, he is playing at a much, much higher level. And that's why he's climbed significantly up to 60th in averages so far this year. So he's coming in some form. That means he's of the third people from Pot C, one of the players to avoid. And Fallon Sherrick, well, she made the quarterfinals here not so long ago, but she has struggled this year. If she can find her form, that will make that a tough group. I think both of those groups for the top 3 players are tough. Nothing against Group G. I mean, I think it's a challenging group. Obviously, Ross Smith just won a major title, but I think Group G is just that little level below. But for Group of Death, you have to look at Group H. And I don't even need to talk about this that much. It's just brutal. Luke Humphries has won 4 Euro Tours this year. Yes, Ryan Searle has regressed a bit. Ryan Searle's not played at the same level he has last year at the back end of the year, and for much of the previous 2 years, really overall. But he's still 12th in averages in the Players' Championship events this year. That's not too shabby. And I mentioned Alan Suter. He went out to Alan Suter just a couple days ago when Alan Suter averaged nearly 110. So in a last leg decider. So he pushed an Alan Suter who's playing brilliantly all the way. Josh Rock speaks for himself. Scott Williams speaks for himself. Those are two brutal draws to get from those last 2 pots. Group H is the group of death because you have, obviously any of the seeded players are going to be capable, but you also have three other players who also are capable on their day, not just of getting out of the group, but going deep in this tournament.
It's very hard to look past Group H as the group of death here, but starting off with the first part of the question, and the big three is, as you mentioned there, Gerwyn Price, Peter Wright, Michael van Gerwen, and the immediate thoughts for me are that their groups are quite even, I think. I mean, you look at the players that have come out of the hat in pot two. Dave Chisnall win with Gerwyn Price. Chizzy's won a Euro Tour, he's won on the floor. Nathan Aspinall in Peter Wright's group, a World Grand Prix finalist, he's won titles this year. And then with Michael van Gerwen, Ross Smith, a major winner, all three are dangerous players in their own right. Then you come to the next pot of players, the next three players, and they're all fairly close in the rankings. Alan Suter, 43rd, Luke Woodhouse, 47th, Raymond van Barneveld, 50th. They all came through that qualifier on Sunday. And Luke Woodhouse, you look at, he came through some very tight games to get through there. You had Alan Suter, you look at the run that he had on Sunday, beating Ian White 5-0, who averaged 98, Alan Suter 107 average, and then he beat Vincent van der Voort and Stephen Bunting in a last leg decider. So he's had a very tough run to get through that qualifier, and Raymond van Barneveld as well. I think he came through 3 last legs, and the game against Mervyn King was 5-3, I think. So 4 very close games there for him to get through. And then the other 3 players, like I said earlier, qualified earlier in the year. And in Ted Evans and Nathan Rafferty's case, they qualified last year, 12 months ago. Fallon Sherrock qualifying in July in the Women's World Match Play, winning that title. And obviously with Fallon Sherrock, you look at this event 12 months ago, making the quarterfinals. She was in the same group as Peter Wright, lost to him in the first game. Then she won her next 2 games, that 170 finish on the way to getting through the groups, and then pushing Peter Wright all the way. And okay, is she in as good a form as that? You'd probably say no, but when it comes to the stage events, we know that can be when Fallon Sherrock really does raise her game, and maybe that could be the case this weekend going into next week. It could be another run for Fallon Sherrock on that stage. You wouldn't put it past her. And Ted Evans, I don't think we've seen his best game on TV yet. Starting again with his new tour card this year. Nathan Rafferty, first year on the tour, he made his mark in the Grand Slam last year, beating Krzysztof Ratajski in a last leg to get through the group. So 2 young players that will be looking to make their mark this week as well. But if I had to pick one of them as the toughest, I'd probably lean towards Peter Wright's one, I think. But it is fairly close between those 3 groups, I think. And as far as a group of death, you've said it, and I think I've seen a lot of people on Twitter say it, Group H is a hard one to look past. Luke Humphries, Ryan Searle, Josh Rock, Scott Williams, they've all won titles on the PDC Senior Tour this year. And okay, one of them doesn't have a tour card, but they will next year in Scott Williams. Josh Rock, his first year on the tour, he's really made an impact. And Luke Humphries, with all those titles on the Euro Tour, he's now in the world's top 8. And Ryan Searle, okay, you mentioned it, we're not probably raving about him as much as we were 10, 12 months ago, but we know he's a very capable player on the stage as well. So yeah, aside from that, Group H, if I had to pick a second group of death, I'd probably go with Group D. You've got Rob Cross, Dirk van Dijvenbode, Martin Schindler and Adam Gavlas. But yeah, I think you can't really look past Group H as the group of death for this one.